Thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 36. So this episode, we're going to take a look at the rest of week 8, which did get started on Thursday, Carolina and Atlanta. But now we're going to take a look at the rest of the schedule. I'll give you the top 5 matchups to watch today, tomorrow. I'm also going to give you my bold prediction for Sunday's games. I'll obviously give you the rest of my week 8 picks. I'll give you the top 10 teams. Just to let you know, there's been some movement in my top 10. Some teams dropped down, some moved up. There's actually a couple of new teams into my top 10, so we'll go over that. And then, of course, I'll preview upcoming week of episodes. But to get it kicked off, just to take a look at some NFL news and notes leading into Sunday's games. So, as of right now, all games are good to go. No teams had any players with positive tests or anything to stand in the way of the games going off as scheduled, which is definitely a good thing. Weather is actually going to play a factor in a few games this weekend. So, if you do like watching, I guess, weather-affected games, this is the week for you. What is there? We already know the Baltimore-Pittsburgh matchup. It's supposed to be rain all game with a little bit of wind. There's going to be high winds for Minnesota, Green Bay, up to 25 miles an hour. Jets, Kansas City, 12-mile-an-hour wind. Vegas, Cleveland, supposed to be 22-mile-an-hour winds. So a lot of these games are going to deal with wind. Some have wind and rain. New England, Buffalo, rain, plus 20-mile-an-hour wind. So some of these matchups may turn into low-scoring, run-reliant games. Also, trade deadline is Tuesday, so this is the last game for teams before the trade deadline. So some of the action you see today and the Monday night game as well could kickstart the trade season. You know, some teams lose today. It may send them into seller mode. Some teams who might have been on the fence, they win today, they may go into buy mode. Some top teams may have new targets in trade talks. So I do think this trade deadline is going to be an active one for some reason. You know, a lot of times the NFL trade deadline kind of comes and goes, a little move here or there, but I don't know. I just have a weird feeling. Maybe it's the whole 2020, but I think this trade deadline you'll see movement. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see wide receivers on the move. Seems like that's the hot ticket item for teams this year. And then, I guess the final note, Tua Tagovailoa makes his debut. You know, he came in to the game 2 weeks ago before their bye week at the end of the game, but this is going to be his first start. So, congratulations to Tua. And as an odd note to go along with that, he's the only left-handed starter in the NFL. And he's actually the only lefty to start a game in 4 years. The last one was 2016, Kellen Moore. I think that was for a game or two. But it's a weird thing with left-handed quarterbacks that you don't see a lot of them in the NFL. It's not like there haven't been great ones. You know, Steve Young, left-handed. Mark Brunell wasn't really a great, but he was a left-handed quarterback who had success. But it's just interesting. But so all that aside, let's take a look at, let's go ahead with my top 10 teams, kind of set the week going. So I do have a new number 1. And as I said in the opening, there are 2 new teams to the top 10. And a couple of teams have fallen. So with that, we'll take a look. We'll start at number 10. They are new to my 10 because they've been kind of just on the outside. The Colts. I have the Colts at number 10. I mean, you guys have heard me say I'm still not a big fan of Phillip Rivers, but their defense alone makes me put them as 10. But there are some teams on the outside of the 10 that could make their way in. Yeah, so Colts at 10. They have a game today against... Hold on a second. Who are they playing today? They play the Lions today, so probably won't learn a lot about them, but I have to give them respect. You know, they are atop the AFC South. Not a great division, but hey, they're a division leader, and the defense has played at a level to overcome Phillip Rivers and his inconsistency, so they're at number 10. Number 9, I put the Packers at 9. I dropped them. They were in my top 5 last week, but I had to drop them. That Tampa Bay game was really worrisome. I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers guy either, but I can recognize that Aaron Rodgers has skill. It's just that it kind of seems like when, especially the past few years, going up against great teams or good teams in this matter, just seems like they never perform well enough. So they're at my number 9. Number 8 is another new team into the ranking. I don't know if you could guess, but I have the Cardinals at 8. That game with Seattle was probably the best game of the year so far, maybe. But Kyler Murray showed me a lot in that game. I did say Kyler Murray is basically the new age Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray needs to model his game after Russell Wilson. Well, in Russell Wilson fashion, he brought the Cardinals back late to get a late win, and it went overtime. So he out Russell Wilson, and the Cardinals are an exciting team. You got Murray. They have a decent running game. You have DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, the ageless one on the outside, making plays. The defense, at least against Seattle, they made timely plays. So, and, the Cardinals are in a tough division with the Seahawks. The Rams are above them. But the Cardinals are a half game out behind the Rams and a game behind the Seahawks for the division lead. And you have the 49ers right behind them, a half game behind them. I believe they're the only division with all their teams above 500. So, the Cardinals have an opportunity to sneak into the playoffs. Maybe they can even win that division. So right now I have them at 8, but they are a team on the rise to me. At 7, I have the Titans, who were another team that were in my top 5 not too long ago, but I had to drop them out. Now they did have so with them, I did drop them only because the way that they started that Pittsburgh game was very alarming to me. They looked like they were ineffective for all of the first half. They couldn't get Derrick Henry going. And as I did say, once you stop Derrick Henry, that whole offense seems to come to a screeching halt, and it did against Pittsburgh. But they did have a great showing in the second half and turned what could have been an easy blowout into a tight game late. So I do give them credit for that, but I did have to drop them out of my top 5. So they're sitting at 7 right now. 6, I have the Rams. The Rams are a team that I've been kind of holding out, really believing in, but I just have to at this point now. So the Rams, their defense is looking like it did Super Bowl year. They have good corners, and they have Aaron Donald on defensive line. That's always going to give you a chance defensively. But now they are more than Aaron Donald on defense. Offensively, they get good production out of the running game. Jared Goff is playing better than he has his past couple of years. They like I said, in that tough division, they're right there behind Seattle at 5-2. Seahawks are 5-1. So by the end of the day, the Rams could very easily be in first place in that division. And if you're leading the toughest division, you got to be a top team in the league. So the Rams are number 6. So now on to my top 5. I have the Baltimore Ravens at 5. And they have a tough matchup today against the Steelers. So if they can pull that out, they'll definitely be on the rise. But I still want to see more out of Lamar Jackson throwing the ball. But they are getting wins with the running game and their defense. And I expect the Ravens to kind of be top 5 going forward. The Ravens' biggest thing has always been come playoff time. So once we get there, then we'll kind of further evaluate them. But right now, I have them at 5. I have the Seahawks at number 4. They fell from being my number 1 team after that loss to the Cardinals. Now, the Seahawks, even when I had them at number 1, they weren't the perfect team because defensively they struggle against the pass, which they did in that game against Arizona. But Russell Wilson kind of makes up for a lot of their issues defensively. But I do think at some point the defense has to get a little better because, I mean, at this point, the Seahawks are basically a nicked up Russell Wilson away from completely bottoming out, I guess. So, the Seahawks are at 4. And they have a game against the Niners today. So, that's another. I mean, they just came off the game with the Cardinals, and they turn right around and have another big matchup today against the 49ers. And the 49ers are riding high after, blowing out the Patriots last week. So that's going to be a tough matchup for Seattle, but we'll see. 3, I have the Chiefs. I kept the Chiefs at 3. I could have easily moved them up after dropping Seattle and Tennessee down, but something still seems a little off about Kansas City. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. It could very easily be that they're the returning champion and they're kind of coasting through the regular season because they know the only thing that matters is getting into the playoffs and trying to repeat as a champion. So I'll keep them at 3. At 2, I have my biggest mover. I put the Bucks at 2. They were, I believe, 8 in my last ranking, which probably was a little low to begin with, but I kind of wanted to see a little more from them before I put them up in the top 5. Well, they showed me everything I needed to see. They've got, Gronkowski going offensively. They are out without Godwin again, but what do you know? They have Antonio Brown coming in. So that's going to be a nice little swap out. I don't think Antonio Brown plays today, but let's see. Who are they playing today? Or are they off? Yeah, Tampa Bay has a bye. No, they don't. They play the Giants. Sorry. Yeah, they play the Giants. So that's probably going to be another win for Tampa Bay. But even without Godwin, they'll handle the Giants. And then Antonio Brown gets, into the mix, with Gronk going, Evans there. Godwin's supposed to come back. I think he has a broken finger, but it's just more weapons for Brady in that offense. Defensively, they've been solid all year, so they're my number 2 team. Easily could have been number 1, but I have the Steelers at number 1. They are the last remaining undefeated team. Once again, they're not solid at number 1, but they haven't lost. They've looked good defensively. Big Ben has kind of slipped a little with his play, especially against Tennessee. Against Tennessee last week, he had 2 or 3 interceptions. So, I mean, for Steelers fans, hopefully that isn't becoming the new trend of him turning the ball over. But they have a game against Baltimore, so that's my number 1 team versus my number 5 team. So that's big matchup there. I mean, if the Steelers can win against Baltimore, then they'll solidify themselves at number 1. But for right now, I've got the number 1. And then my team's kind of on the outside looking in that can make their way back in are probably the Bears, the Niners, and probably Cleveland are the 3 teams on the outside who can make their way back into the top 10 come next week. So there you are. Those are my top 10. Once again, Colts 10, Packers 9, Cardinals 8, Titans 7, Rams 6, Ravens 5, Seahawks 4, Chiefs 3, Buccaneers 2, Steelers are number 1. So with that being my top 10, let's now take a look at the matchups for today and tomorrow, of course. Let's pick the top 5 games to watch. So these, if you are new to the show, these are the matchups that I will be watching, whether it's on TV, on my laptop, or depending on when the games are played, I may even put a game on my tablet as well. And there are some good matchups this week. I will say getting the top 5 was a little bit more challenging this week with certain teams on buys, and then certain matchups turned out not to be as good as I thought they would be. But I did come up with 5. There are 5 definitely good ones to watch. So at number 5, I have Patriots at Bills. Bills come into this game 5-2, leading the division. Patriots coming at 2-4. So normally you'd be like, what's so great about that matchup? But here's my thing. For the Patriots, this is a crossroad game for them. They lose this, they go to 2-5. They're basically going to count themselves out for the season. Trade deadline becomes interesting. Maybe they start selling off some pieces like a Stephon Gilmore. Maybe, Julian Edelman's on IR right now, so he probably won't get moved, but maybe, even when Edelman comes back in 3 weeks, maybe he just becomes a reduced player, which he's already kind of in, but maybe he gets reduced even more. Maybe they move Joe Tooney. There's a couple of ways that this can go based off of this game. But if the Patriots do win, they go to 3-4. Buffalo comes back down at 5-3. Maybe the Patriots add a piece or two and try to make one last run at the division. And then for Buffalo, it's a chance to bury their division rival in the Patriots. Stake their claim as the new team going forward in the AFC East. So, and how does Cam bounce back after that rough start against the 49ers, which was, continuing the trend of the rough start the week before that. So, interested to see. And as I said with the weather, this is a game where there's going to be rain, wind. So it's going to be a nasty field. Probably going to be run heavy, although Josh Allen does have a strong arm. So he may still try to throw the ball because he does have Stephon Diggs. The Patriots, I believe all of their active wide receivers are undrafted guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. So that's my number 5 matchup. Number 4, I have the Rams at the Dolphins. This is more or less because it's Tua's first start. I want to see what that Dolphins team looks like coming off the bye week. So Tua's had some time to work with the pieces there. What kind of game plan do they put in? Do they, try to go run heavy to ease Tua in? Or do they try to just open up the playbook and let Tua kind of go with it and see what happens? Rams, you have Aaron Donald, and that defense will be looking to disrupt Tua's, perception, try to confuse him, and, try to have him struggle. Dolphins are a team on the come up as they sit at 3-3 and have been playing well progressively over the course of the season. And with the Rams, they're trying to, keep up in the NFC West with a chance to take the top spot, as well as trying to move up in the playoff standings. So I think it's going to be a great game down South Beach, Miami. 3, I have the Saints at the Bears. Saints once again will not have Michael Thomas. He's going to miss his, I guess, was it 6th straight game with the hamstring injury. Plus there's like rumblings of off-field issues within the locker room with Michael Thomas. So I don't know what's going on there. That could be a name that maybe gets moved in the trade deadline. I don't know. But, so yeah, the Saints go in with an offense that's been kind of up and down. And without Thomas again, we'll have to see how they play against the Bears team with their defense is definitely outplaying their offense. And it's kind of becoming evident that Nick Foles is better as a backup quarterback than as a starting quarterback. Because look at his run with Philly. He was only effective when he came in for Carson Wentz for, like a short stretch. But then you give him the keys and have him be the starter. He's really inconsistent, so I don't get what's going on with him. But can the Bears offense just show something to make the season look promising in Chicago? Because with that defense, they should be fine. But if the offense is still going to be inconsistent and not produce points-wise, then it could just end up being a wasted season in Chicago this year. So that's an interesting game with two up and down teams looking to, kind of develop their play going into the last half of the season. Second matchup I have the 49ers at the Seahawks. I mean, this one is obvious. NFC West. These two teams have become kind of bitter rivals in that division. Going back to, not too long ago, but Crabtree and Sherman, those matchups they used to have. Neither player is there anymore, but it kind of seemed like with those two, this rivalry really went to the next level. So now you have Russell Wilson and like DK Metcalf, those guys going up against 49ers team, which actually Sherman is on now. So he's now on the other side of that rivalry. But, Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, both defenses. Well, the 49ers defense is more reliable than the Seahawks defense. But I'd probably say the Seahawks offense is more reliable than the 49ers offense, although the 49ers offense is slowly getting there as they are finding new running backs to rely on. Mostert is still out. They will be without Deebo Samuel, I believe, so that's going to hurt them offensively, but they still have George Kittle, who's arguably the best tight end in the game today. So this game could very easily turn into Seahawks Cardinals from last week where, tight game late, possibility of overtime. I could definitely see that with this game. So that's my number 2 matchup. And then best matchup for me of the weekend, easily Steelers at Ravens. 6-0 Steelers traveling to Baltimore, 5-1 Ravens. And this is a game where there's going to be some rain and wind as well. So this game could very easily come down to which defense can cause more turnovers, because both teams are looking to play time of possession, grind out drives. The Steelers do have more big play ability, but I don't know if that's going to really happen with the wind and the rain. That's going to affect the game today. So it could be a game of screens and, power run games. So defensively, which defense doesn't, have the mental lapse and maybe gets tricked on play action in terms of the Steelers and lets a guy over the top, or Ravens. Hopefully the defense can continue to key in on Lamar Jackson. They don't lose sight of him and he, breaks open a long run for a touchdown. So Steelers-Ravens, number 1 matchup of the week. Interesting to see who wins that one and kind of, takes over I guess, the top spot in the AFC. So, and it's another rivalry game. We all know Steelers-Ravens hate each other. Going back to, like Jerome Bettis and Roethlisberger's younger days. You had Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and those guys. So, always one of the best rivalries in football. Right up there with, Patriots, Jets back in the day, Cowboys, Niners, Packers, Vikings. NFL has some great rivalries. Steelers, Ravens, probably the best one right now. So, those are my top 5 matchups. And with that top matchup comes my bold prediction. That game is set with an over-under 44.5. Quick teaching moment. So all that means is, they've set total points, Steelers, Ravens, 44.5 combined score. And I think my bold prediction is that this game will actually hit the under 44.5. Because I don't know, I just got a feeling that this game could be like a 23-20, 2017 type of game. I think it will be another classic game in the rivalry, but I don't see them getting over 44.5. Now, my bold prediction last week was a complete bust. So let's see. Hopefully this one does come true. But either way, I will be watching that game. I'm excited for that game. As a Patriots fan, can't really stand either team, but when they play each other, it usually is very entertaining. So that's why I will be watching. So now with that comes the best part of the episode, the only part you care about, my week 8 picks now. So first pick of the week, I did once again, new to the show, always pick Thursday night game, Sunday night game, Monday night game, as well as the Falcon game, Patriot game, and then usually just one other game in the mix. So as this week had it, the Thursday night game also involved the Falcons, so that's 2 birds, 1 stone there. So I now have 2 other matchups from the Sunday slate that I did pick, so as opposed to the one that I normally do. So Thursday night was Carolina, Atlanta. I took Carolina in that matchup. As we all know, the Falcons won that game, so that's technically a loss, but we'll review that when we do the week 8 review. So I'm 0-1 already on the week, but rest of my picks I feel pretty good about 4 out of the 5. So with that, let's take a look at them. So maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. Maybe my homerism is taking over, but I'm taking New England in the matchup against Buffalo. Buffalo is the 3.5 point favorite, but something about me just thinks that New England finds a way to pull this one out. I'm hoping they do, but I actually do think they get it done in a probably sloppy, run-heavy game. I do trust New England's running game more than Buffalo's, so I'm going New England in that one. Third matchup, we have Green Bay and the Vikings. Green Bay comes into this matchup as a 6.5 point favorite, and I'm going to take Green Bay in that one. I have not been impressed with Minnesota all year. I wanted to believe in Minnesota. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I picked like Minnesota when they played against the Falcons. I took Minnesota in that matchup, and Minnesota got thoroughly outplayed, so I'm kind of done with Minnesota. I'm expecting Green Bay to have a field day against them, so it should be an easy win for them. Fourth matchup, we got Tennessee and Cincinnati. I like what Cincinnati's doing. They're not winning a lot of games, but I have been impressed with Joe Burrow's play. He's one of those young guys who's been just thrown to the wolves, and he seems like he can handle it. So there's something to build on there for Cincinnati. But Tennessee's coming in after that tough loss against Pittsburgh. I'm expecting them to play better, a more complete game, and not wait till the second half to actually show up. So I think Tennessee gets a hard-fought win over Cincinnati. Like I said, Cincinnati is the 5.5 point underdog. I think Tennessee should win by a touchdown. Next one is the Sunday night game, which on paper, I guess beginning of the season, looked like could have been a great matchup. But coming into week 8, this is a matchup that is, I'll just say it's not that great. It's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. We all know why it's the Sunday night matchup, because that's another rivalry that's usually pretty good. But this year, we all know what the Cowboys are. The Cowboys are down to their third string quarterback, a guy named Ben DiNucci. If you've never heard of him, neither have I. I couldn't even tell you what college he went to. I think he went to like James Madison, but whatever. And, you know, the Cowboys, they are missing their, I believe both starting tackles are now out for the season. So their offensive line is in flux. Third quarterback, they're going to have to rely on Ezekiel Elliott. Elliott has had some weeks where he's been fumble prone, so I don't know what to make of that. And I guess I just expect more out of Philadelphia right now than I do out of Dallas. Even though neither team is good in any way, but I would trust Carson Wentz over Ben DiNucci. The line here is Philadelphia as a 6.5 point favorite. When I first looked at it, I thought that was a little high, but with everything going on with Dallas, I'm going to take Philly in that matchup. And Philly should win by at least 10. I don't see why it would be any closer than that. So give me Philly in that matchup. Then the final match, the final pick for me, the Monday night game, another one that, you know, isn't exciting in any way, but hey, it's on the schedule, so I'm going to go ahead and pick it. It's Tampa Bay and the Giants. The Giants are a 10.5 point underdog. I'm expecting Tampa Bay to win this easy, probably by at least 17 points, so I'm not worried about that one. And those are my week 8 picks. So just to review, I already did Carolina, Atlanta, but for today and tomorrow, I have the Patriots over Buffalo, Green Bay over Minnesota, Tennessee over Cincinnati, Philadelphia over Dallas, and Tampa Bay over the Giants. Hopefully, bounce back. I went 3-3 last week, which is fine, which was an improvement over 2-4 the week before, but I want to get back to at least 4-2 this week. Already down 1 with the Atlanta game, so, you know, wait till just like Tuesday when we review. And with that, brings me to the close of the episode. But looking at the week ahead, we have college football review. There was some big upsets over the weekend. Talk about that. Still going to talk about the whole Kyrie versus AI comparison, why it was brought up, why it's even a comparison, because I think in that comparison it leans heavily to one, not the other. You have to tune in for that. Also, we'll have to look forward to week 9 in the NFL. We'll talk about MLS season is coming to a close. I'm gonna look at that, see the bracket, and probably do predictions for that as well. And with the MLS, look to see, one, can the MLS ever be the English Premier League, which the English Premier League is the most popular soccer league in the world. There's some other ones up there, but I think English Premier League is still number one. Can the MLS ever get to that? And should the MLS look at copying the English Premier League's system with the whole relegation and promotion and all that? Get into that down the line. But yeah, as I say every week, or every episode I do say, there's plenty of shows coming down the line. Because with sports, there's always something to talk about. So I will be here with all of that. So thank you if you're new. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you liked this show. Give it a like, subscribe, follow. Go back, listen to some previous episodes. And, hopefully you tune into some more, especially the new ones coming. And if you've been a faithful listener, definitely appreciate you as well. Like, subscribe, follow as well if you haven't. Also comment, you can go to @Chompin Podcast on Twitter. Drop a comment there, whether it's a topic you want me to cover or a question you may have, or if you just disagree with something that I've said so far. Definitely do that there. You can also reach the show on its Facebook page. You can do the same there. The episodes and the show itself is on pretty much all the major podcast platforms, whether it's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, it's there. So definitely tune in wherever you want to. But so thank you again. Be safe out there, and I will catch you on the next episode. All right.